So this one is the action of, it's more actually effect of hyperkalemia, high potassium. What does it do? It's going to decrease the resting membrane potential of skeletal muscle cells. How does it do that? So when you have too much of potassium outside and you have, basically you have high concentration of potassium inside the cell, but when you have hyperkalemia where you have increased extracellular potassium, it's going to go, against the concentration gradient and all that. So it's going to cause potassium influx rather than how the potassium leaky channel works to efflux it, like to throw it out. But this, in hyperkalemia, potassium is going to go into the cell, causing depolarization. When you have more positive cations going into the cell, it's going to bring your resting membrane potential towards the threshold, right? So it's going to decrease the resting membrane potential, and it may cause depolarization. That's what causes the cardiac arrhythmias and peaked T waves in hyperkalemia. Also, it's the opposite of hypokalemia again. In hypokalemia, when you have low potassium outside of the cell, it's going to go out of the cell, basically. So it's going to cause hyperpolarization of skeletal muscle cells, and that's why D is not the answer. D will be the case in hypokalemia. Dysfunction of sodium channel. Why does it cause fatigue? So it's basically your muscle membranes, right? When you have, basic fatigue is a very non-specific thing. It can be muscle inflammation. It can be muscle just being paralyzed or not being able to depolarize. There are very vague presentation of that one. For in hyperkalemia, I would say it's actually more of flaccidity is what is causing the fatigue in these patients. I hope that answers. But I would actually never go with just weakness and fatigue, being a specific clue for me to say that this is hyperkalemia or it's a symptom of hyperkalemia. No, it's a symptom of even normal stress. So don't focus on that fatigue particularly. I would focus more on peak T waves, which is specific for hyperkalemia, and also decrease deep tendon reflexes. Dysfunction of sodium channel. So sodium channel, it doesn't cause peak T waves, first of all, right? And even if there is a dysfunction, it's going to cause more of sodium level dysfunction rather than, it's not going to affect that much on potassium and have hyperkalemia. Dysfunction of dystrophin glycoprotein complex. Can somebody give me the diagnosis for dysfunction of dystrophin protein? Muscular dystrophy, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, yes. Becker's dystrophy, yes. So that's the one they are mentioning over here. And the prolonged release of calcium ions after stimulation of ryanodine receptor. Diagnosis for that one. Prolonged release of calcium ions. Have you heard of malignant hyperthermia? Secondary to, yeah, so that's secondary to the anesthetic use. That's what causes the prolonged release of calcium ions. Why C and E are not the answers is because they have their own specific presentations. So if they tell you it's Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, it's going to be in a child who cannot stand up, who needs support to stand up, and things like that they will describe. Again, it will not have effect like hyperkalemia. This patient had, he just took too much of juices, leading to high potassium level. So very different presentation again. With malignant hyperthermia, they have fever, they have muscular rigidity, they can have tachycardia, hypertension, things like that, and they will tell you that the patient was going for a surgery, he was given anesthetics and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's why that's not the answer. And why deep tendon reflexes are decreased in hyperkalemia is because whenever it's actually the nerve versus the muscles issues here, right? So whenever you have neurological excitation, it's mainly on sodium depolarization is what will cause it. When that does not happen, and when something else like potassium is kind of replacing it, it decreases your deep tendon reflexes. It's going to block sodium to cause that depolarization, and it's usually the sodium depolarization is what's going to cause the action potential.
Thanks for watching. Please give a thumbs up and subscribe for more.